Welcome to AskACop.live, the podcast for real conversations on law enforcement and community engagement. Join your hosts, Veteran Officer Daryll Triplett and co-host Jessica Rivera, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Get ready for candid discussions, expert insights, and audience questions that bridge the gap between the badge and the community. Tune in as we tackle important issues, share powerful stories, and connect with listeners like you. AskACop.live, where every voice matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Ask a Cop show. I know we've been gone for a little bit, folks, but I'm telling you now, it is well worth the wait. We have someone so special with us today. I've been working so hard to get this young lady, you just don't know. There's two things I've ever had to do in this life of mine was ask my wife Lisa for her hand in marriage and get Jessica Rivera on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jessica Rivera to the show. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I hope I can live up to that. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
But it's so great to finally, yes, it has been quite a bit going on backstage, trying to get this all together. So I hope it's going to be a fun ride from here. I'm so excited to join the Ask a Cop live podcast. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun and try to do a lot of help out in the community and just try to bridge that gap between law enforcement and the community, kind of still stick with that objective and just have as much fun as we can doing it.
Well, Jessica, we have followers that follow us and listen to us, and they'll be chiming in here, I'm sure, and they're going to want to know a little bit about you, because this is Jeff's replacement, and I think I love Jeff, but I think this is an upgrade, people. Okay, I'm just going to let you know right now, and I think Jeff would agree that this is an upgrade. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you come from, what do you do, all that other good stuff.
All right. So long story short is I come from Los Angeles, California, born and raised, moved out to Denver, Colorado, a little after college, and I've been here ever since then. I have worked in local Orange County and Los Angeles news while I was there, covering for Orange County, Orange County and Los Angeles, doing a lot of, back then I used to do quite a bit of red carpet.
Okay.
And I also used to do just, everyday news reporter, which I enjoyed for a little while. And then when I got out to Colorado, I realized it didn't really work the same way out here.
No.
And so, yeah, it's not really a movie industry out here in Los Angeles. So out here, you have to wait for somebody to basically retire or unfortunately to die. Because they don't really replace people. That's not how it really works in other markets. So
it's one of those jobs to where when you get a media job like that, you're sort of sunk in. You're sunk in. You're in there until something breaks.
Yeah, usually. And in Los Angeles, what I'm talking about is, everybody's very qualified to do what they're doing, but the audience, the viewership, it's not a surprise for them to see new people all the time. Right. It doesn't really surprise them. They don't complain that much. They're pretty much used to that. Whereas in other markets, like a Denver market or other markets around the country, they like to see their mainstays. They don't really like a lot of change on them. And so because of that, I kind of stayed out of broadcasting for a little while. And then I eventually got back into it with Weather Nation. And I did that. I was producing and I did some on-air stuff with them for about 3 years or so. Mm-hmm. And then I took some time off to have my son. I came back and they had just gotten or purchased a political station. And so they asked me to kind of help get it off its feet out here in Denver, mm-hmm. which I was very not happy with. But then 6 months into it, I really, really enjoyed it because I liked politics, but I didn't think I wanted to do it as a job. And the first 3 months, I really did hate it. It was a lot to get to know. the intricacies, just the little things about politics that you don't really understand until you're in it daily. So I finally, about 6 months into it, I decided I liked it, and I haven't looked back, and I've really enjoyed it. I stayed with, and that was Real America's Voice. So I
Mhm.
was with them for about 2.5 years. Then I stepped away again, and I came back with Right Side Broadcasting for a little bit to cover Trump's this past election, doing rallies, which was a lot of fun. Covering anything Trump related is really a lot of fun.
It's going to
Yeah,
get conversation.
yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And then I kind of just stepped back from that after the election, and then you contacted me, and that's it. That's
Well,
how we got here.
I,
So that's a
hey,
little bit about me.
hey, I'm glad to have you. You're going to be a great fit in here. We get a chance to talk offline all the time, and I'm telling you, y'all, she's on. Here's to a girl named Jessica Rivera right here. This is a
And
little different from what we used to drink, but that's okay. This is just coffee.
yeah, we have a few little changes, and we hope nobody's really affected by that. But I think it's still going to be a fun show.
It's going to be a wonderful show. So right now, people, I'm just, like I said, I'm thrilled to have Jessica. I'm glad to bring her on. Right now, you know what we got to do, folks. So first thing we have to do is we're going to honor our fallen officers. All right, and these guys, you know, what I did not realize is I think it's from April to now, we've had 8 officers that's been killed in the line of duty, which is one is too much. And every week we talk about this. You know, I know people say F the police and this and that and this and that. But these guys are freaking heroes. They're giving their lives so that you can walk around freely and say F the police this and F the police that. But these guys and girls that are out here doing this job, they are human beings. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. And Jessica knows that this show is sponsored by 2 folks, Tallman Pools, who we are internally grateful for, because God knows Mr. Ed Tallman writes us enough checks, and Ask a Cop, or Ask a Cop, of course, and then All Cops Ain't Bad. So All Cops Ain't Bad is a 501 nonprofit organization who helps support this cause also. So without further ado, what we do at this time, Jessica, is we give just 1 minute of silence, and I wish we can give more, but we give 1 minute of silence to our fallen comrades. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. It's something that the show's done since the beginning of the time, and we're going to continue to honor our fallen brothers and sisters. So, Jessica, man, we have a heck of a story lined up. And I see, oh, hold on. We got a lot of people in the chat here. As you can see, hold on. Okay. So let me get.
I think you've been missed.
Yeah, I've been missed. Oh, I love you guys. Oh man, thank you. Well, we're back. And like I said, sometimes in life, you all know that sometimes you got to take a little pause, hit the reset button, and then come back stronger than ever. And that's what we're doing here. And everybody say hello, Jessica. Welcome, Jessica. Y'all show Jessica some love because she's part of the show. And she comes with a wealth of experience in media, a wealth of experience in education, community, stuff like that. So I'm really, really excited to have her on the show also. So Jessica, the topic that we got today is something that Jessica brought to us. And this is just, it's unbelievable. I'll let Jessica just take it from here.
Okay, so we're going to discuss the Pocatello, Idaho, Victor Perez case, correct? That's what we're doing at this point. Okay, so yes, we're going to talk about a recent officer-involved shooting, which unfortunately took the life of 17-year-old Victor Perez of Pocatello, Idaho. For really basically the story is, and this is the information we have as of now, on April 5th, there was a there was a 911 call made to Pocatello Police Department that from a neighbor that a gentleman was chasing somebody with a knife. Of course, police get there. That's all the information they know. They get there to a residence, and Mr. Victor Perez, a 17-year-old, who we now know from family and friends, was a nonverbal, autistic, and mentally disabled young man. Unfortunately, police didn't know that at the time, though. So they responded to the call, and they see Victor on the ground, on the inside of the residence chain link fence, and come to know this is actually his house, the house that he lived in with his family. The police respond. They're on the opposite side of the chain link fence. This all happens within a matter of seconds. So there really is not a lot of time that this incident between the time the call came and between the shooting. Unfortunately, when they got there, they asked Victor, they ordered him to drop the knife. He didn't. Actually, what he did is he did the opposite of what they were ordering him. And we don't know if he understood exactly what the orders were, but he tried to get up. And as he did, the 4 officers who did respond did all shoot at once, as we sometimes see in these tragic situations. And it looks like from the autopsy, it shows that Victor was hit 9 times. He was in stable condition, rushed to the hospital, obviously. He did undergo quite a few surgeries. He had to have one of his legs amputated. He was put on life support, and that was April 5th. And just this past Saturday, April 12th, his family finally decided to take him off the life support. So he did pass away. Tragedy all around. It's a horrible, horrible story.
So we have the video of that we want to play real quick, and then we may stop the video. We're going to let you watch. Hello, everybody. Thank y'all. I love you guys. I miss you too. I promise I'll never be gone this long again. Thank you for welcoming Jessica to the show. But we have a video you've got to watch, because this is exactly why we do the Ask a Cop show. This is exactly why. Good, bad, and indifferent. But communication with you guys, to us, is very important. Go ahead and roll the video.
We start with an update on the shooting of a Pocatello teenager. A family member told KTVB that 17-year-old Victor Perez died after being taken off life support this morning. Victor, who had autism and cerebral palsy, was hospitalized last weekend after being shot by 4 Pocatello police officers. It all started last Saturday night when a caller alleged that Perez was intoxicated and trying to stab his family, but Victor's family says he wasn't intoxicated and posed no threat. There have been protests across the state in the wake of the shooting, including one in Boise this morning. People gathered at the steps of the State House for a vigil for Victor and protest. Attendees say it was to honor Victor and his family and also have conversations about police brutality and violence.
We want the police to learn how to de-escalate situations so that stuff like this doesn't happen, because it was a mental health crisis, and the first thing that the police did within 30 seconds of showing up to the scene was to shoot. It was really hard to watch the video. I myself am an autistic person, and that's kind of my worst nightmare, is to have to deal with the police, and it was really hard to watch that.
Other protests have taken place, including in Pocatello. The Pocatello mayor says the 4 officers who shot Victor were placed on administrative leave as they continue investigating.
Now, first off, I want to get something straight. Hearts go out to the boy's family. Hearts go out to the boy's family. May he rest in peace. This is a very unfortunate circumstance that happened. And we're going to dive into this. I promise. You guys know we're going to dive into this head first. But I do want to say one thing to preface this conversation, is that I've said for 30 years doing this job that a problem on your end don't constitute a problem on my end. So I understand this little boy is autistic, and I understand that he may not have been able to communicate back and forth, but we have to look at what the law says we're allowed to do and what we're doing at that second. So yes, I understand the little autism girl saying that, she's autistic and that, the police didn't use de-escalation technique. You might not be able to use de-escalation techniques in seconds. And then I know there's a thing of the chain link fence, but I want to get into this was in Boise, Idaho, you said?
It was in Pocatello, Idaho.
Pocatello, Idaho. Okay. Mm-hmm. So our producers pulled up Pocatello, Idaho law. All right. So y'all know we're gonna have fun. We're gonna keep it 100, but we're gonna go by what the law says. So if the producers can pull up the first slide here, and I'd like you to go over because Jessica prepared this for us. So
yeah, and it will be basically the legal and the ethical background to the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, it is very, very the legal and ethical breakdown. Yeah. So, and we can go to the next slide, and I'll go ahead and start breaking it down as we discuss it. It's very unfortunate. But like you said, you have to deal with the situation at hand. And I do know that the case, so, I told you it happened April 5th, 2025, just earlier this month in Pocatello, Idaho. Victor was 17 years old, Victor Perez, autistic, nonverbal, and had cerebral palsy. Of course, police did not know that at the time of the call. He was shot and killed by police. And it's tragic all around. But when we're talking about the law and what's going to end up happening once this case does get into the courts, we're looking at, let's see, a legal standard, Graham versus Connor, 1989. Mm-hmm. So basically, this standard states that the use of force is judged by objective reasonableness. It's based on what a reasonable officer would do under the circumstances, and it does not consider hindsight. Of course, this is when the media and the public get the information, is in hindsight. So ultimately, the key question in the courts is going to be, was the threat imminent? Okay. And when we think about an imminent threat, the knife is considered a deadly weapon. So that is definitely going to create an imminent threat at the situation. The 911 report, the call claimed the victim was chasing somebody with a knife. Victor did not drop the knife when he was ordered. And officers acted, like we said, within seconds of arriving. So there was a lot that happened.
Yeah, so I have a question. So, and this is for our callers. You guys, y'all know how we do this. Give me some feedback on, were the officers right? Were the officers wrong? Do you think that they used objective reasonableness, or do you think they were just quick on the trigger? Okay, because there are some officers out there who have issues, right? But I think that, and I've always said this, you guys know this, is that I think there's more good officers than there are bad officers out there. But we want to hear from you guys in the comment section too. Our producers are going to bring them up as they go on. But I'm sorry, Jessica, go ahead. So you were talking about
no, absolutely. Yes, we definitely do want to hear from our viewers and what they have to say. So in arguments against the police justification, so basically going into this, there's no attempt to really de-escalate because it happened within seconds. There wasn't a lot of time. They didn't spend a lot of time asking him to, or not asking him, ordering him to drop the weapon, because as soon as they did that, he opted to try and get up. Of course, unfortunately, that is what took place in that time. The victim, so a lot of people also are going to bring into account in the courts, physical barrier. There was a fence there. They could have moved back from the fence, they're going to say. The victim had limited mobility due to his disability. The officers did not know that at the time. We're guessing at this point. And the known disability, the ADA may require accommodations, and that is the Americans with Disabilities Act that many of us are aware of. Of course, at the time, the police did not have that information. In hindsight, we're looking at it, and we do have all this information. ADA and disability law, these considerations are, it requires reasonable accommodations by law enforcement. Another case law, Sheehan versus San Francisco, officers may be liable if they fail to accommodate known disabilities, and failure to recognize disability may violate federal law. So all of this that we're stating is going to, at some point, play out in the courts. But I think what our point, Daryll, is that we want people to understand, and it's not necessarily that we want them to side with one or the other, but you have to understand both sides of the story and what they were working with. Of course, people are going to say use of force alternatives. Why didn't they use tasers? Why didn't they use beanbags, shields, verbal de-escalation, time and place? He was actually contained within a yard. Training to recognize developmental disabilities, which I'm pretty sure, and because you've been an officer, Daryll, you know this. I don't know. People, the public, courts have been saying that and I think police officers want to be able to de-escalate situations with people with disabilities. But is that training actually being given after all of these incidents? I don't know. It would depend on probably the location, the police department, public reaction currently, and the protests that have been taking place is obviously the community is outraged over in Pocatello, Idaho, and across the nation. There have been a few vigils, protest signs, rooftop snipers. These are all, as of this airing, nonviolent protests. Many of the signs are saying "Do better, PPD," and "Justice for Victor."
So what, one of the things is that I can tell you this here. From when I graduated academy 30 years ago, it's gotten tremendously better. Okay. We are using de-escalation when possible. Okay. I can tell you that. When I first came out of academy, it was none of that. Now, back then, that's not an excuse, because we should have been doing it back then. But I can tell you now that things happen so quick, and you're talking about life or death situations in there. Now, also, Jessica, we have a special guest with us today that I want to interject in. I would love to get his opinion in. His name is Dave Simon, and he's a good friend of the show. And go ahead and bring Dave on now. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And let me Let me say welcome to Jessica. Lovely to see you co-hosting with Daryl. Um,
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. So Dave, just in about less than 15, 20 seconds, tell us
Uh-huh.
what you think about this Victor Perez the shooting.
Um, and to be quite honest, I haven't really been keeping up with all the details, but from what I understand, there were, there's circumstances on both ends that
Mhm.
make it it's a very dicey situation because it's a life and death situation from both perspectives, both
Mhm.
the police officers as well as the victim. And I don't know what the victim's mindset was, but I do know in situations like that, and uh, I'm assuming based on my own experiences in life that you have a split second to make a decision. However, you Jessica did allude to um, de-escalation training,
Mhm.
and I think that's part of what all cops ain't bad has to instill in the community as the organization grows, um, the nonprofit organization grows, because I think that sometimes we don't understand each other's position
Well,
in a
yeah,
life and death situation.
and I think that it is, and this is a question for Jessica, and I know you have one more slide to go, Jessica.
Oh,
But
that's okay.
this is a question for you. Do you think, and I know Jessica's background is media, do you think
Mhm.
media had a good or bad part to in how they're broadcasting this, or do you think it's fair?
Um, so I will be honest, and I don't mean to put, I mean, I know the legacy media already has a bad rap for other things, but I will tell you that many stations are told what to cover and how to cover it. Um, so now, do I think this one they could have spun it any other way? Not really, because ultimately, as we're sitting here looking at it, it's a horrible, horrible incident that took place.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that the officers themselves, in hindsight, realizing that the boy could not move, he was developmentally disabled, had autism, was nonverbal, obviously, probably feel horrible about how they responded. But at the time, that is not what they knew. That was not the information. And
Right.
so we have to keep that in mind that we're learning about this in hindsight, and we can all Monday morning quarterback perfectly. But
Right.
when you're in it, in the situation, it is very different. And there have been a lot of reporters, I will say, that have actually gone on some of these calls with police officers just to do the ride along. They've also done some of those simulations
Mhm.
where there's somebody with a handgun or there's somebody with a knife in the simulation. And I'm going to tell you, every single reporter who has wrapped up their story has said it is a lot more difficult to make a decision with how fast things happen. You don't have a lot of time to think.
It does, yeah. And with that being,
Exactly.
yeah, and with that being said, I think that we have to look at what we call in law enforcement the totality, totality,
Totality.
totality of the situation. Y'all know me, y'all. Y'all know I'm dyslexic and can't talk. Okay, so you have to look at the full scope and not just one side. And that's why the law says that it is not to be judged by hindsight. It is very important when we're talking about the Constitution, Graham versus Connor, all that other good stuff. This is what sets the precedent for the law. All right. Go ahead. Let Jessica go to her last slide there.
So what we're looking at here is basically what's going to come next legally. We do know that there's already a lawsuit that has come in to the Pocatello Police Department as of yesterday, Wednesday, from a law firm in Los Angeles on behalf of the family. No surprise there, wrongful death suit. And in conclusion, this case highlights the fine line between officer safety and excessive force. Legal outcomes hinge on perceived threat versus the actual risk, which is what we're talking about. Um, and it emphasizes the need for police training on disabilities and de-escalations procedures. So
Yeah.
I don't know on that end how that works, Daryl, if in every police department that is something that is a training that is taking place quite often,
Mhm.
de-escalation, or what, when it comes to that, I think a lot of people in the public, the everyday person's going to say, how much training do police officers get when it comes to working with people with disabilities or de-escalation procedures?
Mhm. Well, we have a certain amount. I don't know what happened to Dave. I think we may have lost him. I'm not sure. Let's see. Dave, did we lose you? Okay, maybe we lost Dave for a second there. But so when it comes to annual training, each state requires a certain amount of training hours. And for those of you who are asking about Jeff on here, Jeff is fine. Jeff has a new baby, and he's back in Augusta now, so he's doing very, very well. But he's with the baby. Jeff is doing great. I'm surprised he's not tuned in now because he said he's going to call in here and harass us. But no, Jeff is.
Well, you just said it. He has a baby. There's no time for that.
There's no time for that. So we have to complete a certain amount of hours a year to maintain our certification, which again, I think that's great because before you would have all of these officers and everybody's just flying by the seat of their pants. Well, the state now has said that, you know what, thou shall do a certain amount of hours a year. And part of that is de-escalation techniques. Again, it's important to realize that de-escalation techniques is not a law, okay? It's almost sort of like if it's safe to do so, right? So it's not a necessity that if someone's shooting at me, I have to say, okay, sir, what is your problem today? Duck, duck, duck. Okay, it's going to be no. It doesn't go that way, right? So it
Yes.
goes that if I have time and if it's safe to do so, okay? And we talked about on here, the rule is 21 feet. I want y'all to keep that in mind. 21 feet is how we're trained to be able to, with a person with a knife has to be 21 feet away from you before you can actively draw your firearm and neutralize the threat before he gets to you and harm you. 21 feet. If you look at that video, it's less than 21 feet, and it's only a chain link, regular height fence that's keeping him from charging after him. So is that something that should give you pause? Maybe just a little. But does that stop him from throwing that knife at you? Does that stop him from scaling that fence? We don't know his ability at that time. So I'm just saying, we just have to keep the whole thing in perspective. Okay? Yeah.
And there are two points that I would like to piggyback off of what you just said, Daryl.
Sure.
Yes, a lot of people think that it wasn't a gun, right? It's not as deadly as a gun, which in actuality, as we see a lot of time with the crime in Europe, because they have banned guns, knives are just as deadly.
Just as deadly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So there's that factor, right?
More
And
deadly.
then the other point that I want to make, and I think this raises a question because it was one of the first things that kind of came to my mind. So yes, this gentleman unfortunately was autistic, nonverbal, had cerebral palsy, had mobility issues, had mental disability issues that we're finding out. Okay, 17, technically a child, right? In this, when it comes to the law.
Mhm.
But you've also seen, and it brings up a huge question, then with our citizens that are disabled like this, in this manner, in this capacity, where they can't be responsible for themselves in society, live alone, they're dependent on their family, their friends, which there are many who live wonderful lives that way.
Absolutely.
But for those of our citizens, when are they held responsible for their actions? I think that's a huge question that a lot of people want to know, because I'll tell you this, I have heard and I have seen many times when they do those internet luring, kind of, the police department will get on and do these huge arrests for internet luring. And I've seen a number of times when somebody who has been mentally disabled and is 18, 23, 17, who gets caught up in this, and they're held just as responsible for their actions as the next person.
Right.
So I think that brings a huge question as to another point in society. At what point do we say that these citizens are responsible or not responsible? I think that's a big question that has to be answered too.
I think, in my opinion alone, I think when you're looking at something as egregious as this, I don't think that we can necessarily slap an age number to it. We have to slap an action to it. Not necessarily an age, because there are 9, 10, 11-year-olds that's been charged with murder, right? It has to be the action. And the most difficult thing about law enforcement is to go home and to know that you've shot a 17-year-old kid to death, and you have kids that age also that probably look just like this kid. And which brings me into our next segment of the mental mind trip that it's got to have on the officer's mind. I can tell you, I've been involved in shootings, and I can tell you that one of them was a youth that was he just turned. He was 16, going on 17 years old, same age as this guy, and but I'm telling you. This kid, I can't get into the case, but this kid had all the trimmings, the 9mm fully loaded, already shot a police dog, shot it up. I mean, it's all the trimmings there. So you have to look at, for God's sakes, the action of the individual, and the byproduct, the secondary product is that this is a kid, basically. I mean, he's a kid,
Absolutely.
Comments up if you can, producer, if you can, when they're coming up. So who did we let me see there. What does that say? I've got my glasses on. Let me see. What does that say? Let me get
what do we got there?
I think they're asking who our other guest is.
Okay, so we have Dave Simon. Dave Simon is part of the All Cops Ain't Bad mission, and Dave is a very good friend of the show. And so that's Dave Simon. He's Dave, tell him a little bit about yourself. What you doing with All Cops Ain't Bad?
Yeah, I'm part of the All Cops Ain't Bad organization. We're a nonprofit organization that goes into the community and very big on outreach programs and being able to help and serve and protect from our law enforcement officers who are part of the organization. But we want to be able to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. In listening to the dialogue between Jessica and yourself, I'm also reminded that de-escalation has to be on both sides. Because I think that de-escalation is just taught on one side, which is the police academy and how to de-escalate the situation. But the quote unquote perpetrators or, assailants do not adhere to a de-escalation mentality, then the de-escalation is null and void because each party is trying to protect each other's life.
Right.
So I think if part of what we're doing in the All Cops Ain't Bad organization is try to go into the communities and teach certain things to the civilians, to the, the average person.
Right.
Cop the people too.
And
They don't want to shoot anybody.
Right.
They don't want to kill anybody. They don't want to maim anyone. However, our society our Second Amendment right allows us to bear firearms. So the quickness of a firearm and ease of being able to pull a firearm or a weapon and use it gives people the psyche or the mentality that, you know, it's I got to get it quicker than him or her or the other opposing individual. And so we have to, as part of the All Cops Ain't Bad organization, which part of my portfolio is to help develop certain programs for us to take into the community, is to help to bridge the gap between that misunderstanding that the cops are not out there to try and kill you or hurt you. Cops are out there to try and protect society from perpetrators who want to break the law. Doesn't mean, yeah, it doesn't mean that they want to kill you, but part of their job is to stop the breaking of the law.
Right. And to go home safe at the end of the
And
night.
to go home safe at the end of the and to have you go home safe at the end of the night, even if you do break the law.
Right.
You know, go home or go somewhere where you're safe.
I will say this, and then I want to move on to the mental capacity of the officers because it's so important, is that I will always teach and preach. I have, and many of you know, I have 10 children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10, and I will always teach them to never disrespect the police. It's a no-win. If we got to call 1 million cops in there to deal with a situation and bring in the army and the military and all that other stuff, that's what's going to happen. So we're not preaching fight the police, nothing like that. That's not what we're preaching. We're saying if an officer treats you wrong, there's systems in places to handle that, handle. Okay, there's a complaint system. That's why they make attorneys. That's why they make court. But I agree wholeheartedly with David that no cop is just going out there saying, "Oh my God, I think I want to get in a shooting today."
You're exactly right. It's a lose-lose situation, and it's a situation that you have to train or you have to teach your young children that a traffic stop is not the time to pick a battle.
Nope.
It is not. Pick and choose your battles. That is not one of them. You lose very fast. And this, like the saying goes, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So
God, you must have watched us before, Jessica. I say that. I say it all the time. Play stupid games, get stupid prizes.
And I think that's and you know, we do such a disservice. Parents do such a disservice when we coddle our children and allow them to think that they can get away with anything with anybody. Because in the outside world, that is not going to work in a lot of situations. Nope. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these parents have allowed their kids to kind of live a life like this. And then when they do come up against law enforcement, the kid doesn't know how to de-escalate. They don't know how to keep their mouths shut. They don't know how to think. Maybe this is not the time. What I'll do is I'll take my ticket and I will tell them how I feel in court. You have to give critical thinking. You know, you're responsible for your children to learn critical thinking and how they are going to fit in and how they are going to be part of society in a healthy way. We really, really do.
Jessica, I got to interject something real quick. Because I got to go back to the situation that I was really emotionally attached to, where the kid shot the dog. Mm-hmm. We had known this kid for years. We chased him. He'd been carjacking people, and mom and dad always coddled him. Oh, y'all just messing with him. Oh, y'all just doing this. Oh, y'all just doing, I can't stand the police, this and that. I always said that is going to be his Achilles heel right there. That kid is going to end up in prison or in the ground. And sure enough, the day that he shot and killed that police dog, what did mom do? Now, he was lying in the wood line. He shot the dog, ran to the wood line, and he's lying in the wood line. We begged the mother, tell him to come out with his hands up. He will not be harmed. We begged her. Well, what did mom do? They tried to get our mind off of the wood line over to their house, a different part of the county. And it worked for most of us, but there's more than one cop in this world, right? So again, the coddling, the trying to help the kid out, instead of saying, no, you're wrong, and we're not doing this.
Absolutely.
And you need to turn yourself in. So yeah, I just want to just piggyback on that, because that really struck a nerve when you said that maybe if you would have told him to do that and he came out with his hands up, he wouldn't have been hurt.
It has gotten to such a state of affairs at this point that it's almost as though we can't always depend on the parent, because what if that parent grew up hating or F the police or blah 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 the police, and that kid grows up in that household, his mentality is the same as his mom and dad. So
Absolutely.
what is he or she going to do when they are confronted with a situation? Is they're going to say such and such the police, this the police, I hate them. And so the first thing they're going to reach for is a weapon or whatever they're carrying. And this is why it needs to be taught, just like they do now with the I forgot the terminology, Daryll, and you can enlighten me with it. It's when you have an active shooter on campus or on the school ground. You're already trained. The kids are already trained from the kindergarten as to what to do. So if something ever happens, the first thing the kid does is his psychology goes into motion, and he knows barricade the door, get onto the desk, do this. They got to do the same thing with. They got to do the same thing with the kids growing up today. It has to be in a curriculum at school.
Yeah, I say the same thing.
To de-escalate.
I say the same thing, and I echo the same thing. I know Jessica does. Okay, so if we bring up, we'll go through the mental health slides just very quickly here, because it is part of our lineup today. So bring up first mental health slide if you could, producer. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll take a slide. You can take a slide, Jessica. Then, okay, go to the second slide there. Okay, overview of today's lesson: exploring the silence crisis in law enforcement in suicide. Objectives: understanding the urgency of officer suicide, recognizing the psychological toll law enforcement officers face, identifying signs, symptoms of mental health struggles of officers, explore potential solutions and mental health support. Let me tell you this, guys. One of the biggest problems of why we have high suicide rates is because our police officers, and it's starting to change, but our police officers believe that if you ask for help, that you're having a mental breakdown or something like that, if you ask for help, that you'll be put on light duty. You'll be ridiculed with the other officers. You'll be this, you'll be that, you'll be shunned. And yes, back in the day, very true. Very true back in the day. 2025, not so anymore. So we got to learn to ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. Or, matter of fact, the real man or woman knows to ask for help when we're doing this job. This is a heavy load job, and it's something that we gotta recognize. Going to slide 2.
Either one of you can go and answer this one.
Jessica, it's on you. Can you?
Oh, okay. So this one is going to be the discussion of the Harris County Sheriff's officers, the recent suicides, 4 in 2 weeks, I believe it was, that just happened I think last month. Um, and basically just the severity of it. 4 in 2 weeks. I know a lot of people ask the question of, was there more to that? Is there more to it? Or is it too coincidental to really be a mental health issue? Or is it truly a mental health issue? And this just so happens to be how this played out. Um, there really isn't, one officer a day, suicide every, I'm trying to see what it says. Oh, every 48 hours in the US. Um, yeah, and there are, like you said, today it's very different than it was back in the day. So there are places that you can reach out. There are resources. I know we have a slide with that information coming up for people, uh, to talk anonymously or
Yeah.
to just air out whatever their grievances are or how they're feeling. Um, there's so much help out there. Uh, I don't know if everybody knows where to go necessarily,
Mhm.
or if it's that they choose just not to do that.
Well, I
So
think
I think it's a it's really a hard thing to really understand when it comes to law enforcement.
yeah, I think it's a combination of you feel like you have to be invincible as a cop
Hmm.
because we see so much. We see death up close and personal,
Hmm.
and while that family is still grieving, like like it may be a horrific situation where you have several people laying there on the ground dead, shot, and guess what? The next call you're going to is a cat stuck in a tree. You understand what I'm saying? And this lady's got an attitude problem about why you can't get her cat out the tree, and you just seen this horrific scene that's still playing in your head. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and Daryl, I don't mean to cut you off, but it brings to the point. I spoke with a military gentleman because I feel like law enforcement and military veterans that have seen war very much deal with a lot of the same mental issues. Um, and basically, how he explained it is that the US government, the military takes a healthy person, a healthy young man, a healthy woman, and basically rids them of everything that they ever knew kind of before because they need them to go to war. They need to make basically a killing machine, a defense machine. And so that's how they operate, right? They're trained that way. I know police are trained very heavily in, defense. So they're always on this, you're always stressed. You're always
Mhm.
you're living in a stressed life. And
Yeah,
then you go to war, you do what you're supposed to do, you come back, just like a police officer comes home at night, and then you're
right.
supposed to just jump in to society, Disneyland, going to the grocery store, normal things that a human mind is not able to actually kind of decompartmentalize. And so I
Yeah.
think there's a breakdown there. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir basically, but it's very hard to re-enter into society and to try to be told, well, act like you did before, or, be normal, just fit in. When that's not, once you get that kind of training and once you have the kind of experience that law enforcement and military veterans who've seen war have, it's not that simple. And I do not have any clue of how it works, but I've just listened to many, many a veteran talk about their struggles. And it's got to be one of the worst things to have to
High,
deal with.
highest in alcohol, highest in drug abuse. There's a reason for that. Highest in divorce rate, highest in
Mhm.
suicide. There is a reason for that. And
Yeah.
these guys have made that sometimes, the sacrifice isn't always death. Sometimes the sacrifice is you're trying to wash that memory away. You're alcohol. You're drinking too much alcohol. You're doing too much drugs to try to get it out your head. You're doing
Yeah.
this, doing that. And that is the type of things that maybe we need to have some type of training going back into the public realm, like we do taking them out of the public realm to making them killing machines. And the same in law enforcement too. Maybe there should be some of training going back into civilian life to let them know that, hey, it's not just cops on one side and everybody else on the other. We've got to find a happy medium. And this is why I love this show so much, because on the Ask a Cop live show, it allows us to talk openly about these issues. We're not shunning anyone. We love. So yeah, go to the next slide. Okay, segments and the toll of the badge. Boy, did this just hit right. What makes law enforcement an emotionally exhausting? Well, I can tell you right now, for whatever your shift is, you're on 100 the minute you leave that roll call room to the time you come back in and get in your personal car. You're on 100. Your heart is because guess what? That radio doesn't stop. 911 doesn't stop. And every call that you're going on is an emergency to someone. Whether to an officer or not, it's an emergency. So someone's having a mental crisis, someone's having a domestic violence, someone is having some type of crisis that's going on. So we have to keep that. And that answers that question right there, number 2. Officers face silence burden due to, because like I said, it's the stereotype. It's the stereotype of, I don't want to be labeled as weak.
Yeah.
Listen, if they're calling me to come and handle a problem, that means they can't handle it. And if they perceive me as weak, then what now? Right? So it's a big deal. Daily exposures to violence and death, we talked about that. Pressures to remain tough and unemotional, we talked about that. Listen, you wake up in the morning, heaven forbid, mom has passed away. You're crying, family's crying. You call the police and they're crying too. You see? So at some point, we have to maintain an emotional toughness, and we got to find a way to swallow it and bury it down deep inside. But we also need to release that also. That's important. With emotional stress, whether it's a rape victim, whether it's an officer just doing his job, you got to find a way to release. And I know we're running a little short on time, but I'm going to try to get through this.
Sure.
Irregular schedules and lack of sleep. That's a big one. We're working 12-hour days. There's a lack of police officers on the job. 911 calls coming in, you're a page and a half in the 911s. When you're coming on duty, you're work, you're doing car accidents, you're out, you're chasing people. It's a taxing job. Psychological impacts include, again, we talked about that. What Jessica led to was 1 in 19% of officers have PTSD. The same with military. PTSD is real, folks.
Yeah.
You've got to know the warning signs. If you have a loved one that's an officer or something like that, you got to know the warning signs for it. And I'm going to try to read this one. High rates of depression, and I can't read because the screen is behind that one. So
I believe it's drug use, and you already kind of mentioned it.
Okay.
Drug use, alcohol.
Okay, yeah. So it's just very important that if you're an officer, military, anyone that is serving this country in any type of capacity, it doesn't even have to be, you could be a social worker, okay? And you're having issues, please do not think of suicide, think of help, because suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, most likely.
Yeah.
It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So we have to get help. I've talked to people before. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I'm showing you my vulnerability side. I don't care. But it's important for me to know if I want to keep my kids, if I want to keep my wife and have a healthy mind, you can't be healthy up here. And no one else around you can be healthy if you're not healthy up here. And that's just the facts. So, yeah, in order to keep my head on straight, yeah, I don't mind going to talk to someone and just to clear my head. It doesn't make me a weak man. it makes me a strong man, I think. Okay, on to the next one here because we got to get through it. Okay, Jessica,
Me?
it's on you.
I can hardly read any of that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. It is so
Okay, I got-
tiny.
Okay,
Yeah. So breaking the silence, solutions and support. Obviously, there are avenues that people can reach out. There are hotlines. I know there's a lifeline, Blue Help, HELP, right there. Suicide and crisis hotline there. I don't know if is there a number on there?
There's no number. I didn't see a number.
Okay. Okay.
968.
Oh, hold on. I'm getting a number. Can you put it up on the screen? 968 what?
It says safe call now 988. Suicide and crisis lifeline.
Oh, 988 is the suicide and crisis hotline. 988.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to call. Don't be ashamed to call. 988.
No.
That's for the suicide prevention hotline. These guys are great. Your stuff stays confidential, doesn't get back to your employer. And more importantly, you should be very proud of yourself for calling that number because it's no joke.
Yeah.
It's rough out here.
Absolutely.
Okay, go on to the next slide. We're going to go on and push through these slides. Okay, this is our sort of closing remarks here, and I'll go first if you don't mind, Jessica. It's okay for officers to ask for help. Encouragement to officers, you're not alone. Important crisis resources and hotline. Tease the next episode. I love when they put that in there. Tease the next episode. And acknowledge the importance of reducing. I can't see what it is because our pictures are behind there. But the key takeaway to this, good people, is reducing stigmas and offering support. Right? You're not tough. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're weak to talk about mental health. It does not mean that whatsoever. Matter of fact, it means that you're strong. So yeah, it's a good sign to do that. Go on to the next slide. Jessica, it's on you. Let's see here. Oh, okay, here we go. Law enforcement and suicide data and cases. Several incidents highlight the critical needs for mental health resources in law enforcement. We talked about the Harris County Sheriff's officers in Texas in 2025. I do not think it was, I think it was just those officers who've had enough of it. They've just reached their boiling point, and I don't know if they did it to send a message that mental health is real, or bring up Terry. He's I've never seen you bring a girl to your live stream. Well, you have now. That's Jessica Rivera. She is now my co-host on the Ask a Cop show. Jeff is off with the kids, raising his newborn kids, stuff like that. So Jessica, you're getting some love.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much. I know I've been reading. Everybody's so nice and welcoming.
Oh man, yes. And this is for David, 100%. Oh, they're loving you on YouTube, Dave. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
My team on here, our followers are great, man. They tune in every Thursday with us, and this is the reason what gives us the strength to keep doing this show. If it's you out there who is having a rough day, and you think that life is just getting a bit much for you to bear, be sure to reach out for help, because I can tell you now, we've dealt with suicide in our family on a personal matter, and it is very rough. It's very disheartening, and it leaves the living with questions of why. Why didn't he come and talk to me? Why this? Why that? And those are questions we'll never know. But everybody has a chance and deserve a chance to talk to someone, even if you're in jail, if you're incarcerated and you're thinking that this is the end of my life, no matter what you're in there for. It's not. It's not. This is why they make psychologists and people to talk to and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, to the next slide. Okay, I'll let you do this one, Jessica.
All right. So law enforcement officers, The key takeaways for today's show is law enforcement officers face unique mental health challenges that are often overlooked. The stigma around seeking help continues to be a barrier, which we've kind of talked about throughout the show. And there are resources available, but departments must prioritize officers' well-beings, and encouraging open conversation about mental health can save lives. And of course, if anybody is watching and they're they feel like they need to reach out and help, this isn't only for law enforcement. You can call any of these numbers, anybody can, and they will get you directed to the correct people.
That's right, you're absolutely right. So I think we have one more slide here. That's really tiny.
We're gonna have to
let's see here. Let's see if we can't make this bigger.
Yeah.
Can you read that, Jessica? Because I can't.
Nope, I can't.
Okay, that's okay. So we know basically what we're talking about here, folks. And I don't know what producer did that one and put that writing in itty bitty tiny letters.
It must be a very young person with amazing eyes.
Yeah. But I'm telling you now, folks,
Right.
This is the reason why. And also, I want to also direct your attention to also All Cops Ain't Bad. Dave Simon is one of the main administrators over there, along with myself. And we're hoping to get Jessica over there too. Surprise, Jessica! But that is a program that is really meeting people where they are. So we have a lot of different programs that's coming up for emergency funds, for people in crisis situations, and all that other good stuff. So check out the website, allcopsaintbad.org. It's a 501c3. Check it out, guys. And we're going to take a quick station identification real quick, and then we're going to be back with some closing remarks from our panelists here. And hello, everyone. We'll right, it's Daryll Triplett with All Cops Ain't Bad. I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for your continued support. Whether you're tuning into our podcast or attending our events or making a donation, you are making a difference in the mission of All Cops Ain't Bad. So thank you for being with us. Let's keep pushing forward, bridging people together, and continuing this important work. Together, we're stronger. You're back. Jessica, this was our first show.
It was
amazing.
Not that bad. We're both alive.
I mean, listen, y'all, listen. I told her, I said, our people out there are great. I said, we got people that's going to be commenting, and they love the Ask a Cop show. They love it, and they tune in faithfully to it, as you can see. And I'm glad to see that everybody is still here. I was like, I hope everybody's going to come back and show up and all that other good stuff. But I'm really, 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 really proud to have Jessica on. She will be with us. And it's come to close to another end of the show, you guys. And I want to say thank you for tuning in and stay safe out there. I'm Daryll Triplett, and I'm your host.
I'm Jessica Rivera, now your new co-host. Thank you so much. It was a great first show. I appreciate all the warm, welcoming messages that I received throughout the show. I really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing and talking with you guys and conversing and having real conversation that makes a difference. So thank you so much. And it's been great.
Great. I want to bring Dave Simon back on for just a second to tell him goodbye. And then we're going to go on and get out of here until next Thursday. Dave, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much, Jessica. It was a great show, and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Good folks, until next Thursday at 8 o'clock, be sure to join in with the askacop.live. Go to our YouTube page, our Facebook pages, all of our Instagrams, support us. Tell a friend to tune in next Thursday at 8 o'clock. Until then, I'm Daryll Triplett. I'm your boy, a.k.a. Officer Keep It Real, and I am out. Bye.
See you later.